Oh, welcome everyone to this week's setup seminar. And a little something different this week. We're at New Hampshire Speedway with the A car. We're using the A open weather. Just gonna be 79 degrees, wind southeast 4, 52 humidity. And unlike some of the weeks before, where they're mostly like kind of cookie cutter tracks, what we have is a little different track here, being a flat track and a mile long. It's gonna take a little bit different approach this week. So I'm gonna load up the setup here to fix setup, and just like always, we're just gonna take it out and do a couple laps with it, get a feel for it, kind of go from there what we want to change. Well, just from those couple laps right away, the setup's extremely tight, and here it's kind of a really big deal. You really need to roll the center here to cut it back down the track. So the setup's going to take quite a bit of adjusting here to get it where we need to. But one thing that you probably noticed here is that my line's kind of different for anyone that's new to the car, the track. You don't run the bottom here for whatever reason. You kind of arc it, and a little more 1 and 2 you want to enter a little lower, then kind of just get the right sides kind of on the old pavement and get it rotated down the track. 3 and 4 you really don't enter quite as low. You kind of want to just stay up there from the from entering the corner kind of by the old pavement, and then rotate it down in the center to come up straight off the corners. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to bump up the tape like we normally do. I think probably 36 might be okay, a close enough number. And we're definitely going to take the brake bias down a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy with the brake bias, especially a track like this, because if you go down too low, it's like 55 or something, what you're basically doing is you're just kind of using the brake bias to get the car to rotate, and you're masking possibly setup flaws there, where it would be more efficient to make the car turn with something in the setup instead of just cranking a bunch of rear brake bias in it. When you crank a bunch of rear brake bias in it too, it has a tendency to heat up the rear tires more, it feels like, especially when you're coming off the corner, and you really lose rear grip off the corners. We're just going to put this toe to 0. And just a quick look at the cambers, especially the right rear. Looks like it's got a little too much right rear camber in it. We'll change that real fast. Left rear doesn't look too bad. It's already at 2.1. We don't really want to go lower than that. And just looking right here, 54.6 crossweight. When we're making these adjustments, we're not going to go too crazy, with a bunch of changes all at once, because we kind of want to see what's going to work or not. So right now when we make changes, we're just going to try to keep approximately the same crossweight in it. And we're just definitely going to go up on the rear track bar, right rear track bar here, to get this to rotate a little better in the center. And you'll also notice when we change this right rear track bar, it changed our rear toes as well. We're going to leave those for now. You always want max left rear toe, as much as it will give you. That's not really true for right rear toe. Or so on the short tracks, you kind of want less rear toe if you can get away with it, because it's going to help with grip off the corner. Forward bite, I should really say. And like always, we're just going to kind of keep the truck arm preload to about 0, close to it. And we're just going to do one more change before we go and try it again. And that's just we're going to make a little ride height change and spring change up here. So from an 800 spring, we're just going to go down to a 600. And also ride height's changed, so we're just going to go... We're not going to go all the way back, we're just going to go 3.21 for now. We're going to drop it a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And our crossweight it's about the same. It's not a huge difference here. So we'll just go and try this again on the track. I just did a quick couple laps, and those changes definitely helped. You might not be able to see, but when I was going around the track, it definitely rotated a little better in the center of the corner. Let me get back to the gas sooner. It's carried more exit speed. Still not quite where we need it to be, but definitely better than it was. And right here, I'm just trying to point out something to everyone. You'll see with how I brake here, and I watch this on a lot of people's replays, and they kind of, I guess, brake wrong. I don't know if that's really the correct way to say it, but when you're braking at a place especially like this, you'll notice that when I get on the brakes, I basically apply almost all the brakes. And what we're doing here is, and then I come back off of them. When you're at a short track, or like this, Martinsville, Richmond to an extent too, where there's heavy braking like Phoenix, when you're driving the car, what you want to do is you want to apply the most amount of brake as soon as possible, and when you're right getting on the brakes. And then as you're rolling into the corner, you should be coming off the brake. It's gonna allow the car to roll better into the corner, and you can, when you're driving to the corner and you're stabbing on the brakes because you're not slow enough, it's making the car want to kind of wash up, and you're not really getting the optimal amount of grip that way either. So you kind of want to, get on the brakes as hard as you can. Then when you're entering the corner, roll off the brakes like you kind of see me doing now. I mean, you might get on them a little bit more, but look at my replay. I'm just gradually letting off the brake completely until like the center of the corner, and then I'm like off the brake and just kind of rolling it and then getting back on the gas. It's kind of hard to see when you're a full replay. See, that's why I'm kind of just going frame by frame so you can kind of get an idea of what we're doing. And then like right there, you see me stab the gas. And a lot of times when you see, like, if you're stabbing the gas like I did right there, that's because the car's really not rotating, and I'm just like kind of stabbing the gas to try to break the rear end out a little bit to get the car to rotate better. And then let off, and then so that's what I'm doing right there. So that kind of shows us right there that we need the car to rotate a little better. And always, when we make improvements, we're going to be saving our setup. Okay, so now what we're going to do real fast is we're just going to go up to full, all the way on the rear track bar. Helped before, we can use some more of that to help it rotate a little more. And we're also going to go down a little more on the left front spring and the ride height. And what we're actually going to do here is we're going to go down on the ride height, static ride height, and then go up on the packer. And what we're kind of doing here is on a track like New Hampshire, when you're trying to fight for forward grip, you want you have a tendency to want lower, like a specific like a lower left front ride height, because what that's doing is that's going to be pinning the left front down, and when you're accelerating out the corner coming out straight, it's going to be holding the left front down more as you come out the corner, so you get better downforce and more overall grip off the corner. So we're just going to try this real fast and see if this helps us a little bit with coming off the corner, and make sure we zero out this toe. But you did notice now it's changed their crossweight and preload. You saw me mess with that a little bit. So we're just going to have to, I'm just trying to get the left front right a little lower. We're just going to have to go with the cross and adjust this with the left rear. And what I try to do is I always try to make cross adjustments with the left rear, because it's going to have the least amount of effect on the car with the ride heights and how they matter. So we use, like, for instance, if I use a right rear, to go down on the cross, I'm going to be raising the right rear ride height, and that's kind of counterintuitive because that's sticking the spoiler up in the air higher. So we really don't want to do that. And the left rear, we're going down on it, which isn't disturbing the balance of the car just nearly as much. And we're just going to fix this preload real fast. And just taking a quick look at here, right rear, it looks a little better. It's still not great, but it might just go down. It's maybe a tad on it later, but we're just going to take a little bit of right front camber out of it as well. Okay, it looks pretty good here. Oh, those changes definitely helped. I did whack the wall a little bit off before, but it kind of hurt the overall lap, but nothing too bad. Actually, I screwed up a little bit driving there too. I went in the corner a little too hard. And this is a track where overdriving the entry really hurts you. When you overdrive the entry here, what ends up happening is you end up missing the center because you carry too much speed in. The car wants to understeer up, and then you can't cut the car back down from the center, and you lose all your speed center off. So that's another thing that, when you're doing laps around here, it's really easy to be very inconsistent when you're testing and kind of get like false like times. You may be like, well, I made this change and I drove it. You end up driving a little differently. You run slower, and you can't really tell if it helped or not. So you always got to be kind of aware of that. What exactly if it's helping or not. So we're just gonna go now. Save this real fast. And we're just going to make some tire pressure changes real fast now. So I think these tire pressures were just a little too high for a track like this. You kind of want them a little lower. So we're just going to try to put them down a little bit. It should help us with overall grip. And I did leave a little extra half pound in the left rear just to help with the forward bite a little bit. Well, seems like the tire pressure's helped a little bit, but it's still, we're not really getting the rotation we need yet and down in the center. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna change some rear springs. And New Hampshire's kind of a unique track too because it is a mile long. It's not slow by any means, but it's kind of in this in-between place where you're kind of fighting for mechanical and aero grip. So you really have to like balance it out. Like what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna drop this left rear spring to 200 and put this right height back. And then put this right rear spring to 400 and then put the right height back. And that keeps the cross about the same. We'll go down just a little bit with it. There we go, 54.6. And now what we're doing with this rear spring combination here is that we're lowering the left rear, raising the right rear. And with this split right here, the bigger the spring split you have, the more the car is going to want to rotate on you. So like if you have like a 200, 1000 rear spring, it's going to have a lot more oversteer that way than if you have a 200, 400. But right now we're trying to get to really kind of pivot in the center more. So we're gonna, decrease the left rear, increase the right rear to try to help that out. Normally we don't run these low rear springs at other places, one because the car would bottom out, and it's just not enough spring to hold the rear end up. But here you can, kind of get away with it. And that's what I was talking about, going back to like trying to balance the aero and mechanical grip. Try to get, an optimal setup. Oh, like right there, you can kind of see how that benefited us. When you're looking at the split times, you can kind of see that I gained a lot of my time from the center out there because the car got through the center so much better. It's exactly what we were trying to do with the setup. And we're just going to make a quick camber change here, and let's just try to get more the left front tire more contact with the track here. It's pretty lopsided, only 114. I know it's only a lap or so, but basically showing that the inner is not even basically touching the ground there. Just kind of want to fix that a little bit. You don't have to go too crazy with worrying about the inner tire temperature in the left front, but when it's this lopsided, you kind of want to just do a little bit. And one other thing we're going to do here is we are going to play with the left front shock a little bit. Now, because this is a short track like it is, what we're going to do is we're going to take the rebound down on this. So hopefully what happens, the idea behind this when you take rebound out, is you're taking basically how fast the shock wants to expand back after it's been compressed, and you want to slow that down. So when we're coming off the corner, it's going to hold the front end down a little more to give us some more forward bite off. And the reason we're going to do that is we're going to loosen it up a little more in the center, but we don't want to lose our forward bite. So we're just going to kind of tune this a little bit to try to keep our forward bite with still keeping the rotation in the center. And we're just going to take out a little bit across to try to get to 50. I was looking for 50. Yeah, 54.3 is pretty close. That's what we want, and just put that down. No, I did hit the wall, but it didn't really hurt us there. We had a pretty good lap going. I could have lifted a little bit and not done that, but we'll try it again here. And that right there actually feels really good. I'm not really sure how it would be in the long run. It might be a little too loose. Mostly because we have this 2 rubber toe in it. It's something, you know, you'd have to probably do a 20-30 lap run to see exactly what it does. But let's see it real fast. I'm just gonna go down a little more on the rebound. The balance right now is actually really good, so don't want to do anything kind of radical to it. It drives pretty good, rotates the center pretty good. Just a little, it is a tick loose off, but it's kind of something you always fight here when you're fast because you kind of need it to be to roll the center good enough to get a lot of exit speed. Did make a huge difference right there. Maybe tiny a little bit better, but I think this is gonna be pretty. This is gonna be what I post in the forums here. You know, like I said before, but really the really kind of key here is for you to get a setup that rolls the center without without becoming too loose out the corners. You know, if you can get a center that it can roll the center and then, you know, keep the forward bite, you're gonna have a really awesome race car. And you know, the Class A top split guys and Winnie Racer and, you know, the N Pass series, you know, that's what we all kind of shoot for. And this does it pretty well. It's not like I'm not sure exactly what competitive lap times are for this week. I did run a few laps earlier, but if anyone's got any questions, feel free to post them in chat. I'll answer them. If anyone wants to try it, you can. The setup's gonna be on the iRacing forum in the general section where I normally post. You can play around with like taking the right toe, putting it down to like or 1 or 3. Kind of mess with that. Try to find a combination that gives you the best forward bite off with still rolling center. But no questions in chat. I guess I'll just kind of end the video here. Anyone have any questions? Feel free to post them in the forums. You can PM me. Feel free to subscribe on Twitch, YouTube, whatever, like it, all that good stuff. Might do another stream later in the week if the weather isn't too bad. We might be getting a storm here, but if we don't, I'll probably try to get Michael Conti. Oh, we actually do have a question. What's your opinion on using a bunch of preload and keeping the right heights low for longer? Preload is kind of you can use it. It's obviously something you can do. You can preload the left front. Well, spring deflection, it doesn't really matter too much on the Cup car. Spring deflection is pretty big on the Nationwide car and trucks because you don't have bump stops. With the Gen 6 car, you're on the bump stops, so spring deflection doesn't really really mean anything. I mean, it does mean something, but you're going to be riding the bump stop. You're not going to be coil binding the spring. The problem with when you run a lot of preload, like you want to preload the bar a ton, and it's going to pin the left front down, is that you're not going to get any travel in the left front, and the car has a tendency to kind of bounce when it does that. From what I found, so I mean that's another thing you can obviously try. There's like all these combinations, and that's kind of the fun things with setups is trying like I'm gonna try to run like a bunch of preload, like -500 preload, and see if this works and if you can get it to work or not. It might be pretty good to do that here because it's not a horribly bumpy track. Minus like the entry to 3, it's kind of bumpy. And like I said, when you preload it that much, you're basically not moving the left front. It's just gonna kind of be stuck because you're gonna be running it on the bump stop, and when it's already on the bump stop, it's actually gonna be compressing in the garage just from the preload. So you're pretty much not gonna have any travel in the left front spring. Alrighty, guys. Well, look for me posting the forums wherever I do my next stream. I like giving a little notice, but sometimes I can't always do that. Have a great day. Talk to you guys later.